Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, we have with us two guests, and those guests are Alan Williams and Dave Stubberfield. Alan is the founder of SERVICEBRAND GLOBAL and advises business leaders internationally to deliver value-driven service. Dave is the director of Carter Consultancy and specializes in enabling cultural transformation to help businesses achieve greatness. They are the authors of Supercharging the Customer Experience, How Organizational Alignment Drives Performance. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Alan and Dave. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, Yannick.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, so just start off with Alan, and then Dave can answer. We always like to ask our guests if they could share in their own words a little bit about their journey. So basically, how it is that you got from where you were to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started off in commercial hospitality management. So I remember being at school thinking, I want to go to university, but I want to do a degree that's going to help me get a job. And I really didn't like the idea of what I at that time considered to be really boring businesses like banking, where you're sat in an office all day. And I was lucky enough to get a holiday job in a hotel. And I thought, that's it. Exciting, looking after people, fun. So that was the beginning. And then I moved somewhat later in my career into workplace management. So you might know it as facilities management. So all of the services in workplace offices. And I referred to those offices actually as they're really hotels with desks instead of beds. That's the only difference. And then I set up SERVICEBRAND Global in 2005, and I've been helping progressive leaders in organizations around the world since then, using what I learned in the hospitality sector.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Alan. Dave?
Yeah, for me, it's, I guess similar to a degree. So I was just about leaving school, and the careers advisor said, you've got the potential to go to university, but I didn't really know what for. So I decided against it and tried the apprenticeship route in the corporate space, which I loved, and a lot of customer facing roles. Then there was an initiative called Lean, where I became kind of a Six Sigma qualified individual. And then, yeah, it just kind of spiraled into attaching customer experience to the continuous improvement framework, really, and how changes adapt in organizations. And then, 2020, we set up Carter Consultancy, and I haven't looked back since. So, yeah, love what I do.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Now, the both of you teamed up together and wrote this awesome book, Supercharging the Customer Experience. Can you share with our listeners, and either of you can answer this question, a little bit about the book, maybe 2 or 3 overarching themes that the book focuses on, and who is the book geared towards?
Dave, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, I'll take this. So I've known Alan for a few years now, but it just so happens that we were interested in creating a customer experience development program for the BQF, the British Quality Foundation. And the president kind of joined us together and said, look, you're both trying to achieve the same things. So very, very quickly, during our initial meeting, we realized that we are very aligned in how we think and what we wanted to achieve. And through the development of that program, Alan, out of the blue, turned around and said to me, this has got the makings of a great book. Do you want to write one? And like a rabbit in the headlights, I just kind of froze and then said, yes, let's do that. So through Alan's guidance, through his previous experience of being an author, he's brought me on that journey with me. And I've really, really enjoyed it. And the foundations of the book really stem from the training, the development program we put together, which is really all about putting CX into context. We believe there's a lot of content out there, I'm going to leave Alan to drop the question in a second, but we believe there's a lot of content out there, but we believe that the actual application of customer experience doesn't happen as frequent as it should, which led us to the question, Alan.
Yeah, that's right. When we were thinking about the book, Yannick, we were thinking, well, how's this book going to be any different to all of the others out there on the topic of customer experience? Because I don't know if you've checked, but there's just like so many books on the topic. And we just found ourselves with this question, which is, with all the content on the topic that's out there, why is great customer experience so rare? It doesn't make sense if there's all that resource out there to guide people. And that was what Dave's just touched on there, that the problem, I think, and the challenge is that so much of the time people are focused on content and knowledge rather than the practical application of that knowledge on a day in, day out basis. And that's why the great customer experience is so rare. And in the book, we provide a framework that helps you, whatever sector you're in, wherever you are in the world, whatever the size of your organization, it provides you with a framework that can help to guide you create your own customer experience strategy that suits your own particular individual circumstances.
All right, so let's use a use case. I like the fact that you gentlemen said that you want to focus on the practical, because you are very correct. There are many, many books out there on CX and EX. And, you read the content and, it's focused on knowledge, the definitions, the theory. But how does that really work with the organization, with people, with their behavior, with getting them motivated, with having them intrinsically applying that in every single interaction, regardless of the channel that they're serving the customer on? So you can choose a business. I'll leave it up to you in terms of the use case. Just, give us an example of, based on the framework that you have in the book, how does this really apply to a business?
Yeah, well, Yannick, I'm not even going to choose a particular business. I think that sometimes when you do that, you're kind of dragged into generalization. So I'm just going to tell you a story. And it was a business that I was working in, and we focused really hard on everybody that was in the organization, understanding that they were part of delivering a great customer service and that their job was to make our customers and clients feel important. That was the reason that we were all there. And I remember on reception, we were expecting a guy attending a very important meeting. And so obviously we knew in advance that he was arriving, and we had pre-prepared a name badge. We also aimed to greet people before they introduced themselves in this particular environment. And so that happened. The receptionist greeted the gentleman by name. But we had not expected one thing, and that is that he brought with him a small terrier dog. Now, the receptionist actually said to him, complimented him on the dog, and then said, "And now, sir, if you could just lift him up in front of the camera and produce a name badge for the dog." And the guy went into the meeting room and announced to the people from the client organization, "That is the best welcome I've ever had anywhere in the world." And then the meeting was a great success, down to that receptionist. So the reason I love that story is because it really emphasizes the importance of people understanding the big why they're there, rather than getting consumed and distracted with the small tasks that they might have to do in order to satisfy that.
All right. Now, based on your research and your experience, both of you in the CX space, if you were to choose maybe 2 or 3 behaviors that you believe is critical for customer success in a business, and I'm not just talking from the employee perspective, but also from the leadership perspective, like what are the 3 key behaviors that will more than likely lead to a culture where people have that customer-centric mindset, regardless of the type of customer, how complex the problem or issue might be, but they're always driven by that because of those core behaviors. Would you be able to identify what those, if you were to pick three, what those would be?
Yeah, I can start with one for sure, and the one that leaps out with me is empathy, and that runs from a kind of a customer facing team into the customer. But like you said, it's the leadership into the rest of the teams and the organization. I think having that empathetic understanding of what people might be trying to do or what they're going through, it's so powerful. We're stepping into the realms of emotional intelligence here, and to the point that Alan's just made in that story, which is fantastic. People have to buy into that, right? So they have to buy into that culture of trying to achieve and deliver that experience, not once, but every single time. And I think that starts with a lot of empathy. I know some leaders that are not very empathetic, shall we say, and don't understand why they can't achieve the results they want to achieve, not only in the business but in the customer experience space as well. So I would lead with empathy being one of the most powerful ones because it unlocks so much. Alan, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that at all.
No, I'll go with number two, though, which I think is about positivity. So, when a customer asks you for something, the answer is yes. And then how? And it might not be exactly what they were expecting or had asked for, but, how often do you hear, no, can't do that? And that's really not a good start to a conversation. So I'd follow empathy with positivity.
And then I would go number three is probably communication. And that's, I guess, all ties everything up together nicely. I think sometimes, again, starting at the top with leadership, they might send a message once, whether it's via email or it could be in person, it could be a presentation. And some people think that they can just deliver that message once and everyone gets it and understands it. It needs to be reinforced. It needs to become part of the embedded as part of the DNA of the organization, and that message needs to be repeated, so it's understood and lived every single day. And I think having a great deal of empathy and positivity, it just needs to be reinforced through communication, I personally believe.
Yeah, and Yannick, can we give you just one extra one as a bit of added value?
Of
I know you
course,
only have
of course.
three. So I'd go with obsessive attention to detail. And this is kind of every person, every day, every minute, because consistency is what makes the great businesses set apart from those that are good some of the time. And that's because everybody in the organization knows the fine detail of what's required and is then committed to delivering that every single time.
All right. So empathy, positivity, communication, and obsessive attention to detail.
Sounds all right, doesn't it?
All right.
Not
bad. Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. No, I like the fact that most of what you talked about focuses on people, focuses on behavior, focuses on relationships, practical things that we can see, things that we do every day. I found, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, that in the last, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years, or even before, but definitely in the last 2 or 3 years, there has been a lot of emergence in the space of technology with, artificial intelligence. And I find that organizations sometimes may not necessarily be integrating it or using it in the best way possible to ensure that it's not replacing humans, but more so helping humans that can really help the overall experience. And I give an example. Over the weekend, I had a friend that has a mobile modem, and we were having some issues adding some data to it, and we called our local telecommunication, reached out to them through their website. Actually, no, we did it through their app that was on the phone, but the app has a bot at the top, and when you the bot's name was Ruby, but Ruby can't answer any questions. Ruby doesn't remember what you told her before. And so you tell Ruby, I'd like to speak with a representative. Ruby starts the conversation again. Please provide me with your name and account number. Please tell me exactly what your query is about. And I told Ruby that before, and I felt like I was going in circles. It was just crazy. So could you share maybe just some insight for us on what you believe is the future of, as best as you can, because AI does cover a lot of stuff. But what do you believe is the future of AI, and how will that impact human interaction?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and we cover a lot of this in the book. And honestly, you could spend hours upon hours doing research. And I kind of immersed myself into this. You're spot on. AI is kind of forefront of technology at the minute. Everyone seems to be dipping into it. You've also got augmented reality that people are looking at as well. And they are fantastic things, and it's just incredible what some of these things can do. The problem that organizations have today is they see something shiny, something sparkly, and go, right, we need that. And they try and integrate it, and it's just kind of a lift and shift, kind of slot it into a place, and it fits in just, or they squeeze things around and they go, perfect. We can tick our AI integration box off. We've done that. But like you've just said there's not been any kind of sort of thinking or thought process around how we actually integrate that to all of the other services and ways of communication that we have as an organization. That omni-channel element hasn't been considered. We just see AI as a way potentially to do something with generative text, for example, and we go, yep, okay, we can get that in, we can do that there, and boom, it's done. It's thinking about the entire process, and I think another element to that is, let's say one organization in a certain industry does something that's quite revolutionary. Other companies in the same industry or even outside the industry might try and replicate that, and they haven't considered how they operate as an organization, the value they deliver to their customers, and if it actually works. I think a lot of people feel like they might miss the boat if they don't sort of get on board the technology bus, because it's just constantly changing. So I think there's a lot of risk when it comes to technology. You need to do your research, your homework, and what fits for the business. And for me, it's thinking about it from a people point of view. Technology's kind of at the forefront of the minute. AI, you name it. There's lots it can do, but it needs to work for people, and that's the thing that really I think sometimes isn't considered. So that would be my thoughts, Alan. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that at all.
Yeah, I think that the issue is that people consider technology to be an alternative solution, whereas in fact it should just be a support to people. So, when you've got predictability and high volume, then sure, I think technology can be a massive help in that sort of situation. But where you've got unpredictability and perhaps volume that is up and down, then it's much less helpful. And it might be that a human being could deal with that much, much better. So the big thing, though, is this thing about technology being a tool rather than the be all and end all. And I liken it to a scalpel. A scalpel in the hands of a really experienced surgeon can save people's lives. But in the hands of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing can be really dangerous. And it's the same with tech in customer experience.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So can you also share, and each of you can give me your answer to this particular question, what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely cannot live without in your business?
Oh, what a question. I'm going to be totally contradictory to what I just said. I'm going to go chat GPT in a minute. So I use that as a bit of a sounding board, really. So in my business, in my organization, it's just me. So sometimes when I have a bit of an idea, I think, oh, okay, maybe I should post that on social media, or I should do this, and have a bit of an idea, I will often ask Alan, because we are very alike. But sometimes I will just put a bit of a question into ChatGPT and ask for maybe what's relevant or how I should do a certain thing. And knowing that it's not always 100% accurate, I use that as kind of the as a gauge, really, to see if I'm on the right track. Um, it's funny. I will put something into ChatGPT. For example, let's say I wanted to do a LinkedIn post this week, and I might say, "Give me 5 myths about customer experience that we can debunk," and I might find one of them and I go, "Well, that's not a myth at all. That's the complete truth." So I might swing it in a way that I think is my own personal view and opinion, and I use that as kind of a something to generate a bit of a conversation with myself rather than just talking to the brick wall. So for me, I quite often use ChatGPT. I would say I'm using it daily, which is it's mad, really, how it's become so prominent in people's lives.
Yeah, Dave, I think I'm going to add to my CV that you'd ask me before ChatGPT. I think that'd go down really well. Mine, Yannick, is my calendar, my Outlook calendar. I'm a bit too reliant on this. Basically, if it's not on the calendar, I'm not there. And occasionally or I was telling somebody just the other day how I was just about to go into a lunch meeting and I got a message from somebody saying, really looking forward to seeing you for lunch today. And I had to have a very quick lunch meeting and then get to the other one and not tell the person.
Wow.
But yeah, my calendar is mine.
All right. So calendar and chat GPT. Excellent. Now, I usually ask the question, what book or books have had the biggest impact on you? I noticed in your book, which I love about how the layout of the book was done, that at the end of each chapter, you have a little box that says want to know more, with resources in the form of articles and books that the reader can access if they want to gain additional information. I think that's brilliant. But I will still ask it. So if you could share with me maybe a book that you read recently or even a very long time ago, but it has still had a very great impact on you, whether from a professional capacity or even a personal development capacity.
Mine's a long time ago, actually. So the Balanced Scorecard by Kaplan and Norton. So basically, this is about making sure that your business is balanced and looking after all of the different stakeholder groups, rather than being just focused on generating profit. And over the years, that kind of sentiment, I think, has grown into triple, quadruple bottom line, ESG, all of the terms that are given to it. But basically, a very, very similar message in that you're managing your business holistically rather than just to generate profit. So that's mine.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
So I've got a few that spring to mind, and the one I'm going to talk about most prominently is the one I've listened to recently, is the 1 Minute Manager. This was a recommendation to me. I've heard it and seen the title around, but I've never actually taken the time to listen to it. So that for me was really, really interesting, because it talks about trying to do things in a minute, setting goals that people can read in a minute, having reviews, whether it's positive, negative, in a minute, so you can redirect people or praise people. And I think a lot of us get bogged down in just day-to-day life, that everything becomes much more intense than it needs to be. So that 1 Minute Manager for me was it was talking specifically about managing a team in an organization, but I think you can apply it to absolutely anything. That's the one I've listened to most recently that has been phenomenal and eye-opening for me. One that I would like to call out, that I've previously listened to, is The Prosperous Coach. So coaching is a part of what I do. And that was something that really helped me and kind of confirmed to me and validate that I can do what I'm doing, which was amazing, because I had a lot of doubt at the time when I started. I'm in a massive sufferer of the imposter syndrome, so that was really good for me personally. And what was the other one I was considering? Oh, yes, it was Who Moved My Cheese, which is just, I think it's a staple. If you haven't read or listened to that, then go and listen to that. That's phenomenal.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Dave. So we will have the links to those books that Alan and Dave shared in the show notes of this episode. Now, can you also share with us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Well, this is going to be a boring answer, Yannick, to some people because the CX in Context Development Program, I'm thrilled about this because we've started to deliver to clients and the feedback has just been fantastic. And people are just saying, this is a real eye opener because CX cannot just be treated in isolation. It is inextricably connected to other parts of the business. And this framework helps us to do that in a really simple to understand way and a very practical way. And when I get that sort of feedback, it makes me feel that it's been worth putting together what we've put together because it's going to be able to help so many people out there.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Alan. Dave?
Yeah, for me, I could quite easily say the same thing, but I'm going to be different. I would say in the past 18 months, I've been developing an online tool that's called Nova. And Nova is a way and means of teams, organizations to measure how well they are implementing continuous improvement in their business or in their team or in their organization. And that is something that I've done for a long time. And I used to do it by an Excel spreadsheet. And talking to a friend of mine, he said, Dave, why on earth are you using a spreadsheet in this day and age? And I kind of sat back and thought, right, okay, I should practice what I preach here and change what I do. And it's led to this tool, which I personally believe is cutting edge. So basically, it's an assessment that each team would do in an organization. It will give them a score. It will give them actions to do. It will give industry insights as well based on the information that's being provided, just so that it can help the team progress. That then creates an aggregated score up to the leadership, and that can be viewed across the leadership peers and the group. So if you've got an entire organization, you've got a continuous improvement score essentially for the entire organization with industry insights that help drive the improvement of that organization. And with Alan's help, we're going to look at introducing customer experience to that later in the year. We've also got plans to introduce change management as well as vision, values, employee engagement. We see this as a potential game changer tool that can disrupt organizations for the better. So a lot of positive to come from that, and that's not long been launched really. It was at the start of this year, and we've seen some really interesting returns on investment as well. So fingers crossed, that's one for the future.
All right, that sounds amazing, Dave. Is that available to anyone in the public, or it's still in beta?
It is, yes. It's available to absolutely everyone, and anyone that might be a little bit unsure, a little bit reluctant to get involved or have a look. There's a free business health check at the very beginning that you can take, an initial assessment that sort of points you in the right direction, asks some leading questions to get you thinking, are you doing the right thing? And at the end of it, it will tell you how you're performing based on that information and our suggestions moving forward. So there's a bit of a freebie at the front as well.
Great. No, my next question would be, where can our listeners find that resource online?
Absolutely. They can find that at www.thinknova.uk.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, gentlemen, as we wrap our episodes up, we would like for you to share with our listeners, where can they find you online? They've listened to this episode. They're quite intrigued by your book. They're quite intrigued by your journey and all the things that you're doing, and they would like to connect with you online. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, it's not so straightforward because we have separate companies, but mine is www.servicebrandglobal.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
As Alan Williams, correct?
That's right, yeah.
All right, and Dave?
Yeah, I would say go to LinkedIn first for me. Dave Stubberfield. I'm very active on LinkedIn at the minute. I'm probably boring quite a few people that I've known for a long time and thinking, what is Dave doing, posting videos and polls here, there, and everywhere? But it's a way and means for me to engage with people, and I absolutely love it. If people want to go to their website, then that will be www.carter-consultancy.com.
All right, perfect. So we will definitely have the links to both Alan and Dave's LinkedIn profile, as well as their individual company links as well, if you'd like to connect with their business. Now, before we close off the episode, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that in times of adversity or challenge, you will tend to revert to this quote? If for any reason you get derailed or you get off track, the quote kind of helps to get you back on track. Do you have one of those?
Well, this relates to the book, actually. So I created this, when was it? The end of last year. And that is content without context is toast. And
I saw that in the book. I thought that was kind of cute.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Yanni.
All right. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about how that quote brings you back on track?
Yeah, so it originated really from Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast, right? It's that kind of ring and tone to it. And I was just thinking about how so much, especially with social media, it's all about pumping stuff out there. But I think it really helps you to recollect yourself if you remember that your particular situation is unique and you just need to focus on that. Don't get worried with all of the possibilities of all of the content. Just think about what situation you're in right now, and that will help you deal with it.
All right. Thank you so much, Alan. Dave, do you have one of those quotes?
I do, and mine's a bit cheesy. I think people might hear it and go, "Oh no," but mine one is "Teamwork makes the dream work." And
Aww.
I think for me, to put that into context, again, I've spoken that I'm a solo in the business, but I think realizing that collaboration is king, really. So let's take the book as an example. There would have been days, I'm sure, that I would have been not really at 100% and not firing on all cylinders. But I knew that I would have to present something to Alan later in that day to say, this is what I've done or what I've produced. So there would be that factor. But there would also be helping Alan out. If Alan said, right, okay, we've got 10 actions to do, but I'm in meetings for the rest of the week, I would go, leave that with me. I'll pick that up. I'll take the strain. And I think that's part of that teamwork. And I think, again, that's part of why we work so well, because we do have the ability to understand when someone hasn't got the time or the space. The other person just seems to pick it up from somewhere. I don't understand how or why. It's a bit of a dark art, but it seems to be working well for us. But that for me is the one. Knowing that collaborating with people is often going to be so more advantageous to absolutely everyone. That's the one for me that pulls me out of that pit sometimes where I might not be feeling great.
All right. Thank you so much. So Alan's quote, content without context is toast, and Dave's quote is teamwork makes the dream work. Now, both quotes are phenomenal, and just to kind of piggyback on what Dave said just now, I say it all the time in customer service trainings, no man is an island. And the reason why an organization has more than one person working in it is we all have to work together. Everyone's role is important. You gentlemen wrote this book, and I'm sure that it required a lot of sweat, tears, hard work, focus, just a lot of energy and engagement that you both had to put into it. And it wouldn't be the success that it is today if it is that you didn't put that effort into it. So, I fully endorse both the quotes that you've given to us, and just want to remind our listeners that customer experience is a journey. It's not something you're going to get to overnight or in an hour. It's not something that you're going to just get from one book. And it's something that we continually work to improve every single day that we get the opportunity to work on it. So thank you so much for sharing your great insights about your book, about all the different things that you're doing in your organizations with your own clients. It was really a great interview, and I hope you had as much fun as I did.
I really did. Thank you so much for having us, Yannick.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, Yannick.
Just want to remind our listeners, you can join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience, or follow us on X at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.